Good evening to all for the third day of the international conference on
Reading.
thesis writing and publication organized by Lavender Literature Club and Marga of Malaysia. On behalf of both Lavender Literature Club and Merha, I welcome you all in this fine evening. I hope you all have enjoyed. You have gathered a lot of information on thesis writing and publication. I welcome you all. Amidst of us, we have Dr. Aloysius Albert, Assistant Professor of English and also Dean of Students, St. Xavier's College, Alankotai. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
And he'll be moderating today's session, today's day, and he'll be introducing the guests, and he'll be amidst of you dealing with the day. I welcome you, sir. The platform is yours.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, but your voice is little low.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, sir. It's
This
okay,
is
fine.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, sir.
Okay. Shall we take on now?
Sure, sir.
Okay. So it's being the third day, I hope. Yes.
Yeah, Krishi is there.
Oh, yes. Hi, ma'am. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, yes. So, welcoming all the participants who are eager to listen and enrich your experience of research in various fields. And there is a saying, best results are generated at the end of the day if only the best ideas are generated at the beginning of the day. And the literary club with the Malaysian universities organizing continuously a topic on research, the nuances of research, writing, publication. And not only that, the literary club, almost in all over India, this is a trend that today everyone tries to organize program and research. It shows that research is actually picking up, and we need genuine publications, and that's what everyone is eagerly waiting and to listen and how to write paper and publish in good, genuine publications in journals. And I hope this research and publication, especially on topics related to research, all research scholars who are here will be very helpful. And I would like to welcome Dr. Christy Paulina. Okay. And her expertise is well sought in so many places, as she has not only done research on evil in Thomas Hardy and William Golding, but he also finds the evils around us and then makes better publications, how to publish in better journals. And she has actually doing research, and she has done a research on this. And she's actually the better person to speak to us on all this. Of course, she has done her UG PG in St. Mary's, Chutukuring in Tamil Nadu, and also PG and M or MPhil and MS, PhD in Manoormaniam Sundarana University. At present, she is teaching in Bishop Caldwell College. Okay. She has been working as an IQAC coordinator, and she has in admissions and research. And I find her whole breathing becomes research now. I think she's guiding so many persons, okay, related to research, and her skills and competencies are exceptionally good. You can rely on her. Therefore, in this third day of the research and the program, I'd like to welcome Dr. Christina to share with us her competencies, her skills, or her knowledge about research, okay, and publications. Welcome, ma'am, and I hope you'll have a good time. And then
Thank you,
uh,
sir.
once she finishes, you can have further clarifications and queries. Welcome, and session is yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Aloysius, sir. I'm very honored to have very nice words from you. Thank you, sir. I also thank Lavender Literary Club, Cape Common Trust, and Malaysian Industrial Relations and Human Resource Association for inviting me to be the speaker of today on thesis writing and publication. It's really I'm very happy to speak on this because my area of, as Aloysius has said, now recently I've been doing much research on thesis writing and research publication. Being a literature faculty and being seeing my so many students doing misguided in research and how they are stranded over in literary writing, or I would say in ELT. So I further thought, why can't we concentrate on literature or on social sciences, where I can help people on publication and how to write as well. So this particular conference really attracted me of writing, how to do thesis writing and research paper publication. Thesis writing and research paper publication does not, we don't have much of variation. Where when we go for an SSCI or Arts and Humanities Citation Indexed journal, the research is equally to a thesis sometimes. When we go for good funded journals or Q1 journals, it becomes it becomes very hefty to do a lot of research. So I thought, why can't we do on qualitative and quantitative research in social sciences, where most of the people nowadays, as a faculty, we are for funding programs. We want to have funding programs, and for that funding programs, we need to have certain publications where the students and the faculty members wanted funding. So for that, what can we do? I have a few ideas on what I see. I review papers and I have seen people how where they are lagging in and where we are lagging in as an arts and humanities discipline, or when we talk about social sciences as well, we are lagging somewhere. Where are we lagging? That's what I want to highlight on today. And when we talk about science and social sciences, science people, they do on realistic facts. When we talk about maths or computer or physics or health sciences, we talk about realistic facts, which sometimes cannot be if they do it very genuinely, it cannot be manipulated. But sometimes where we are lagging is the statistical data, or what we are doing on research in social sciences. Sometimes it gets manipulated, or we are not sure what we are onto, whether we are in the right track. That is what we want to talk about. So I'm just going to talk about the difference between qualitative and quantitative, when to do a qualitative research and when not to do a quantitative research. That's what now we get messed up sometimes, where we have to concentrate on qualitative, where we have to concentrate on quantitative. So we lag there. So I'm just going to present on where how can we do a proper qualitative research. So can I present my screen?
Yes, ma'am, sure.
சார் நான் உங்ககிட்ட கொடுக்கட்டுமா? ஷேரிங் எனக்கு பண்ண முடியலையே.
Ma'am?
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Sir, I'm sending to Rajesh sir.
Hello? Ma'am, what happened?
Sir, I sent it to Rajesh sir. He'll be presenting.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
Hello.
Ma'am, you can speak.
I'll speak,
Let
sir.
him
So,
yeah. Let him share the presentation slide.
yeah. So, what is to start with? I would tell you what is the difference between qualitative and quantitative research. So for quantitative research, if we want to confirm or test something like a theory or a hypothesis, then we need to use quantitative research when we talk about number. And when we want to talk about qualitative research, we need to understand something on concepts or thoughts or experience. So in that case, we need to talk about qualitative research. So when we decide to talk about a particular topic in a research paper, we have to talk when you have to check whether this quantitative research is going to give us more scope, or whether qualitative research is going to give more scope. So that is what we have to see when we choose a particular journal. And then we have to talk about our research area. So when this research area, when we talk about COVID, for example, then we can talk about quantitative. And even when we talk about vaccine, we can talk about qualitative. So we have to understand where we are going to concentrate upon. And then when we talk about when we have to define, or how we are going to we have to be sure, certain times social sciences people, we are not very good at mathematics. In that case, we need to get help from the Department of Mathematics or Statistical Department. So, or we ourselves can equip, by learning a certain statistical, how to analyze statistical data. So, quantitative research is mostly which depends on numbers and graphs. Now, we have to test certain theories and assumptions. So, that particular is how we are going to analyze the data. We have to collect numerical data. We have to measure variables, how we are going to, we cannot talk about 10 people or 20 people. We are going to do it in a huge number. When we talk, for example, now we are living in a world of COVID, where COVID is have become an epidemic and it is worldwide. We cannot concentrate on 100 or 200. So we have to have some proportion to the world population, how much they've been affected. And so then comes that the numerical data becomes huge. So when that time we have to talk about variables. Then also it talks about statistical. So we have to have a statistical data where we have to come to a conclusion, or our results should be very much objective, and it has to be very much conclusive. We cannot have we have to have a definite result. We cannot have an assumption. So that is not that research is not needed now. Actually, when we are having a research, we need to have a definite and objective research, and also we have to have a grounded, how are we going to analyze. So that comes first. Most of what I get as a request is where people send me papers and say, ma'am, I want this paper to get published. So that is why where we are not able to go to Q1 or Q2 or Q3 journals. We go to a journal where they get a paper published and it doesn't get indexed and becomes a cloned one. So this is where we lag in. So when we want a paper to be recognized by a nice journal, then we need to have a grounded theory. How we have a research methodology. How are we going to do a research? That has to get been appreciated by the journal, and they have to accept our journal to go for a review first. So then it gets published. Then it comes the later stage of review and all the ones. So when our paper has to get an acceptance to be reviewed. So in that case, with our research methodology and our work cited becomes very important. That is what they ask us for. What kind of research you have done, what kind of discussion you have putting forth, all that. And then also we have to draw conclusions. Conclusions in the sense we also have to have an outcome of our research. And also when we talk about the methods, when we talk about the methods, I think so I come to the third slide. Next one, sir. Methods. Yes. So where in this particular methods, what are the kinds of methods that can be used for quantitative research? It is statistical, mathematical, numerical analysis is very important. So most of us, when we talk about an ELT, how many students in your college have achieved a good spoken English, for example, or able to converse in English, or able to score 5 marks out of 10. So in these cases we need to have a numerical analysis. So at this time we need to have an interdisciplinary research. We need to get help from the statistical department or mathematical department if we are not good at. So we have to have some data collected through polls, questionnaires, surveys, and also we have to check if research has been conducted in that particular area before. You have to compare and contrast that as well by using your recent research. This is where we talk about research gap as well. So bluntly putting a research is not, we have to compare, we have to see what has been done previously. If nothing has been done previously, it's fine. But if somebody would have done somewhere, we are taking a link from somewhere, then we have to have that particular computational techniques. And also then talking about generalizing, or you have to talk about a particular phenomenon where now students have not been schooled for 2 years, they have not gone for 10th and 11th proper, the staff in the colleges had a really tough time. So even when you are talking about that, quantitative research can be taken. So this is what, sometimes only the research, the research methods only by collecting data, all that stuff. Then later what we have to have a set of, when you write a research paper, we have to have an introduction, literature and theory, method, result and discussion, all that we have. But the methods is very, very much important, where we are going to concentrate upon, how we are going to, question is also sometimes, sometimes the manipulation of data is that when I process for Q1, sometimes it get rejected, where people do the homework like, full 100 forms or 200 forms and they come, but 200 forms, sometimes they get, some journals ask for consent. When sometimes they ask for a consent form. Most health sciences, definitely they ask. But when we talk about literature, when we talk about some complicated theory where they are doing, or some complicated issues they are discussing, they definitely ask for consent form. So all these things we need to see when we are doing a quantitative research. So next slide, sir. So what are the characteristics, how to do, what the importance of quantitative research is? I told you about the goal in conducting quantitative research is to determine the relationship between one thing and another within a population. We can talk about vaccination, we can talk about COVID, we can talk about ethnicity, all that, a number of problems. But what the population, why they say is, we have to take care to see how much of population is affected by a particular trauma or a particular problem. We have to take that into account by 1/10 or 1/5 or 1/4 of a population. We have to take into account. So that with that wide range of research only it would be possible. When we talk about 10 people and we cannot analyze regarding COVID, or we cannot talk about 100 people. So when you have to take a particular women or working women or women in the age group of 35 to 40, so we have to take where we are going to see about or talk about a problem. We have to make sure that we are going to talk about a small circle, and from that circle you have to evolve a questionnaire, and you have to concentrate on a number of questions that concentrate with that particular group, like 1,000 members or like 1 or 10,000 members are there in age 35 to 40. We have to talk about 100 people at least. We have to take 100 people at least for a research. This is what the population research is concerned. When you have 1,000 people of some particular problem, if you take for 5 or 10 people, your research is not going to get into account. So that is what is very important in quantitative. You have to calculate so much of population is affected by such a problem. So how much of number I'm going to analyze, and that particular population result only is valid. So why our research is not getting into that account is we are not taking into population. I see, they give it to some friends itself. They come to one college and one particular questionnaire they will give to 200 to 300 people. That is not going to count at all. You have to take the variables in one college or in one school, 10 members. You have to take like that. Only then our research would be definite, and our research would be very much particular. That is what they want. Then we have to talk about research design, how we are going to be either descriptive or experimental. Most of for the research nowadays, what they are doing is descriptive. Now sometimes, some 2 years back they would have done it, and now they would be using the same one, but that is not right actually. But mostly why they do descriptive is less amount of work. But experimental carries more mark nowadays. Taylor and Francis are giving more importance to experimental work actually. So descriptive study, it talks about variables also. Casualties it comes under that statistical data. Qualitative research focuses on numeric and unchanging data, detailed convergent reasoning rather than divergent reasoning. It is very important. We have to have a convergent reasoning. We have to have a focal point where we have to drive ourselves to it. Our research should go through that focal point. It should not diverge. So this is what a research problem, it has to be very much spontaneous. It has to be very free flowing. We should not have a doubt about what our research is going to talk about. So, next slide, sir. The previous slide, main characteristics. Yes, sir. So what are the main characteristics? It is the data that are structured research instruments. It can be either Google Forms, it can be either the softwares. There are many softwares you could have seen in, we would have been receiving many surveys, right? Like that. It can be in structured research instruments. The research are based on larger sample sizes and are representative of a population, as I already said. Then it has to have high reliability, and the researcher has a clearly defined research question to which objective answers are sought. So we should have one particular research question. That research question to arrive or to derive an answer for that particular research questions, we can have questions in your questionnaires have to be formulated in such a way that it gets converged to your research question. Then your study, before getting your study, please collect the data and have a statistical analysis of all your data. And then it has to be, and you have to have an arrangement in tables, charts, and figures, which you have to have colored and black and white, where you have to have it separately also, and which can be used in Excel sheets. Then projects, so you have to have predict future results, which is very important. We are not talking about today. You're going always, research is for a future. Then n number of computer softwares are there, and we can have to collect numerical data. The next one. And also, what are the things to have in mind using a quantitative method is we have to explain the data collected, for what we are collecting the data, and for what are we having a relevant to our result. So what are the problem we are investigating, and interpretation. Most of our research is getting failed because our results are interpreted by the researcher itself. So interpretation is not at all encouraged. Then report unanticipated events. Sometimes we can have, sometimes we are not able to collect for certain group of people, then that is accepted. Then explain how the actual analysis differs from your planned analysis. So we would be having so much we would have expected, but we would have got an answer of another way. That also you can do. Then what are the techniques you have to use your data set? It has to be, sometimes we have to have two data results. We have to analyze it in 2 or 3 different ways. So in that way, you have to create a data set, and then we have to have a minimally sufficient statistical report, and you have to have a reference for it. So, and also what kind of computer programs or softwares we use to analyze the statistical data. So that is also very important to have a research. So when all these research data we have, it's very good. We are not aware that so much of effort is needed to have a qualitative or quantitative report. We are not aware of it. So in case when we have all these in steps, from questionnaire to an analysis of data, and only then the writing process starts. But what most of the flaws which I find it nowadays in student is they start writing and then do the analysis. No, we have to sit aside. We have to set a questionnaires, have a research question, pop up 10 follow-up questions, and then have a questionnaire, and then have a data analysis. And first of all, we need to analyze where we should collect our data. Okay, now we have electronics, we have software, so we can reach n number of people. So how are we going to analyze? Who are we to help? So we can, all of them can collaborate into writing a good research paper. So next question. And also we can don't talk about assumptions, because sometimes assumptions are when we don't have a proper answer, assumptions are accepted. But mostly I would say don't assume. Let us have a definite answer. And then most of the thing is statistical data, and we are not supposed to interfere causality is, they say, the cause precedes the effect. That is what they say. The focal point where we have, that is again, it comes under statistical data. And also we have to talk about the global effect. Why I say global effect is important is, sometimes we have to have a figures, we know we're talking about crores, talking about that, so we have to have a figure small, rather than taking 1 lakh, 2 lakhs. Don't put it in writing. Have the figure of your like number 1 or 2. We can have the figures very small. And also we have to be very, very clear about your tables and figures. So next slide, sir. So that is quantitative research. We talk about graphs, all that. Now qualitative is very important, where I would say most of our literature students, mostly they do on qualitative research, where we talk about theories mostly nowadays. So where we talk about concept, thoughts, our experiences. This is what is very, very most of the literature students, where we talk about, even I would say sociology, social sciences, certain areas, they talk about theories and concepts. So this talk about it in in-depth or insights on topics that are not well understood. Now I would say feminism is very much greatly dealt topic, and mostly everyone understands. Now I have seen many new theories like anthropocentrism, which I was talking about now. It is a concept which is coming up now. So that is what it is not much different from eco-criticism, but anthropocentrism, another word where we are talking about more on ecology and animals, all that. So that is coming up. So we have to talk about more about, don't do on a topic that is much well dealt. Do on a topic that is coming up. So that is what an innovation and novelty of writing is expected from journals. So qualitative research is a methodology designed to collect non-numerical data to gain insights. So, and also talking about opinions, views, attributes, hard numbers, or present a graph. You can also have a graph and chart, but not as in quantitative. Why I would say here a small number of people is enough. In a classroom, you can take up a classroom. How many of your students are very much interested towards ego criticism? How many of them are interested towards feminism? You can have your own thing. How your students are coming up with these particular theories, or that kind of small theories which you can interpret very easily. Then qualitative researchers are also can delve deep into the topic, and we can gain information about people's motives, thinking, and attitudes. And qualitative approaches in depth of your research question. So here also, for every research paper, either it is qualitative or quantitative, please identify your research question. That is very important. You can have 1 or 2 research questions, but you have to have definitely one particular research question that follows up throughout your research paper. Next slide, sir. So now this is what they say, a market research. What kind of qualitative market research we focus on? How to have an open-ended conversation. And mostly, this method is only not about what. It is not very much objective. It is something we talk about why. You have to say why this happened, why why this particular writer is writing on this particular topic, or why the protagonist is reacting like that. So when we have to think, we have to have an analytical question, why, a reasoning. This is what is very much important. So when you talk about literature, I'm a literature person, I'm just concentrating more on literature. If in case, even when we are talking about marketing, qualitative marketing also comes there, where we talk about market research, where you say what is lacking in the market today. or what, for example, when we talk about a convenience store, why women are not visiting this particular store, why women is going to that particular store. So how to have a qualitative research is, you can interview 10 people, 10 women who's visiting the other store and saying, why do you visit this store, not this store? So they would say, these kind of things are available here in this market and this is not available here. Then you can have how to analyze that particular flaws or drawbacks. What is not available in this store is available in that store. So you can put a question. So you have six. I have taken on 6 variety of questions that we can approach for a particular thing to have a market research. So next slide, sir. What are the qualitative research? When we talk, I was talking about convenience store. So when we are asking the people 10 questions, you can give, or you can have a one-to-one interview, or you can focus on a particular group. So all that things when we are doing, we have to have a decoding and encoding of the interviews, and then we have to analyze what the problem is. So this is what we talk about in a an in-depth, how to have an in-depth. You can have a one-to-one interview where it would be a personal interview with one respondent at a time. Okay, so where this gives a more in-depth of what the particular person is liking. For example, if the quality, if a syllabus has to change, the teachers can be interviewed. Or if you want to have a more of a customer care oriented, you can take 10 customers and can have where your company is lagging in, or where we are falling behind. In that case, we can have a one-to-one interview. And also next, we can have a focus groups. Focus groups is something where we have a mostly in collection, where we can have respondents from 6 to 10. So this is what the target market. We cannot take 100 or 200. The minimum of focus group is 6 to 10 members, and where we have to find the answers for why, what, and how. So these 3 questions is very important in qualitative research. And then we can have an online survey, and we are sending through WhatsApp or Google Forms, all that. All the things can be used in focus groups. And ethnographic is the most in-depth of an observational method that studies people in their naturally occurring environment, where we have to target audiences environment, which could be anywhere from an organization to a city or to any remote location. So this ethnographic research, it talks about or helps to understand the cultures, challenges, motivations, and settings that occur. So this is what we talk about, the cultural impact and cultural, all these kind of things which we can do in ethnographic research. Then case study. So this is what case study most health sciences people do. Where we talk about case study reports. They review even a case study reports, which I have seen many papers. So this is what we can talk about from an organization. You can take some of interviews already done or which we have done. So you can take the case study, you can analyze it. For example, I would say a very easy example of 50 to 60 year age group of people. How are they able to what kind of diseases are they getting affected, and are they able to walk? What are the exercises they are doing? What exercises can be given to them? All that comes under case study report. So this will be there in the hospital system or anywhere or rehabilitation center, where they take it and they review. Around 10 to 15 people, or mostly 10 to 15 people, they will do it in a case study research. Then record keeping is very important, where we also have to have already some cases existing reports. You can do on already done research, where somebody would have done a research. You can do a research, but you have to have an innovative way of following up. So in that case, it is record keeping, where the data, that particular data, can be used for a new research. This is I would say it is a physics department mostly they do, where the crystal growth or salt growth or something like that we can have, where the properties of that particular element would be the same, but when we are adding new properties, it changes. So this is what they say, record keeping. So some questionnaires can be already be there. So they take it, to a follow-up new research. So, and sometimes talk about that leads to an observation. So qualitative observation, it talks about the subjective methodology to gather systematic information of data, and that particular qualitative observation, it deals with subjective methodologies and which has the collection of information and data. And the qualitative observation is talking about quality differences. For example, when we talk about 5 sensory organs, now we need not have a data. Observation is very much enough. So this is what we talk about qualitative research method, where we can take any one of the research methods and then we can apply on our research when we are doing a qualitative research. So next slide, sir. Next, I finished this one. So talking about qualitative data, quantitative and qualitative data collection and analysis, which I have already told you about. Quantitative deals with numerical. This data can be non-numerical, and it can explore how decisions are made and how it provides us with a detailed insight. And also, whenever a researcher chooses for collecting qualitative data, one aspect is very clear: the process will generate a large amount of data. In the sense why we say large amount of data, it is large amount of data and not in numbers. We would be having only an analyzing or observation data. In addition, the variety also different method of collecting and recording the data. Why we say is certain times of an interview, it is not necessary. It is very much necessary that you have to encode and decode what the particular person is telling. You have to transcribe and you have to write it or you have to type it. So it's very essential that you have to transcribe all your conversations, all your interviews. You need to have it in your notes. So next slide, please. So that is what the transcribing the audio is very important. You have to have the notes. Even video tapings and audio tapings are transcribed. But transcription is very important because that is what your evidences are. So next slide. So this is what the research question. So I'm just giving an example. How students are, how satisfied are students with their studies? So you have to have a qualitative research approach. So I have said about one-to-one research. Then you have focus groups, ethnographic, case study, all that we have. So you can have a survey of 300 students, or if you are having an interview, you have to have one-to-one of 5 or 6 people. Then if you're having in a group, you can talk about 10 to 15 people. Then you have to draw a conclusion, how you have rated. We are mostly feedbacks or in the colleges for the staff or for the student, for NAC, all that stuff. We get this kind of where we can even formulate a research paper with that. So this is what we're talking about. So you need to have how satisfied are students with this. This is the main research question. So you need to have many questions out of it. How what time they come to college, or which subject is more interesting, or what is the examination system is more convincing. All that stuff is the transparency. All that we can include in the questionnaire, where we have to ask the students to rate between 1 to 5, and then for which questions most of the students are given a positive answer, and for which question the students have not given a positive answer. So then you can come to a conclusion. So this is what we have to draw a data collection base, and then we have to draw a conclusion for a particular research question. So but we are having only one research question. We would be having more number of questions related to that particular research question, and then out of that particular 10 questionnaires, we have to point out, you have to arrange for which the students are given more marks and for which they have not given. You have to analyze the problem for that. Then you have to have a discussion and a conclusion. The next thing is and this is very important, qualitative research approach. Okay, so because I already said is, how do you approach that particular problem? How are you going to clarify your things? So clarify the things is, you have to first, you're asking a question, and then how do you clarify? We have to have a solution, crisis solution. We have to give a solution. So in that solution, what are we going to do? So you have to talk about a particular pattern, and you have to talk about some questions may be very absurd. You can have a you can ask them, why are you saying this? Why? What made you to say this? So you can get a follow-up questions, and you can clarify things. And then you have, nowadays, if you're not able to, survey questions are there, then we have to have a one-to-one interviews with that particular person who are saying, no, I'm not satisfied with this. Then you have to have an interview, then you have to transcribe that particular interview, and then come to a conclusion. For nowadays, for transcribing all the interviews, you have softwares in the in online itself, and which can be easily transcribed. We need not do manually nowadays. All you give it input, if you give an audio file, all that will be given, will be coming up in writing itself. Next slide. So analyzing quantitative and qualitative data. So qualitative data, as I said, or numbers, where we're talking about Excel sheets are very useful. As a literature student, I am very much good in Excel, where I learn formulas from Google itself. So this is very easy when we have an Excel sheet, and when we talk about copying the results and having a formula and doing it, we can basically need not depend on somebody else for an Excel worksheet work methodology. We can have results have. Then you have to have an average score. Then you have to talk about how many number of times a particular answer was given. Then how many people have given a same answer. How many have avoided a question. So all that we can get it through an Excel sheet. And the reliability and the validity of the results are very, very important. Because sometimes our results can be double checked. We cannot say that even our misinterpretation of our results are very much given. When there is journals return telling that a particular research statistical data does not match with their result, they bluntly say, and many papers have returned. So we have to have a validity. We have to have very good, reliable results. So next slide. So qualitative data, we talk about text, images, videos, and also we can talk about the meaning of words or phrases. We can also talk about nowadays you can see in Google or in Facebook most of body languages, the celebrity body languages, all that they do. That's all talking about the qualitative data, where we can talk about the position, meaning of words, phrases, talk about the gestures, and also we can identify the main theme, and we can talk about the communicative pattern or communication works in social context. All that comes under qualitative data. So how we have to analyze? Sometimes when you say the word never, or when we say the word negative comment, we can say they're not towards it, they are very much against it, they don't want to talk about it. So when you talk about certain words, certain phrases, that has to be accounted when people are giving an interview. You can talk about what kind of psychologically you can analyze certain people. So this is what they're talking about, qualitative data. It's very important that we have to transcribe the audio files. The next slide, sir. So this is what why I given is abruptly when I say qualitative and research and quantitative research is not very much a thing. When after this, how to write a paper, then you have to have an introduction, where most the flaws which I see, many papers return. So in that case, first we need to have an introduction. Before that, we have to have an abstract. We have to have an extended abstract, no more than 250 words. In that, you have to have a small introduction. Then you have to have a research question. You have to have a methodology. Then you have to have your conclusion. This is very important in your abstract. Most of the people do not have the discussion basis, which I feel very important. Even if it is a literature person, even if it is a non-literature person, please do have a research question and also have a discussion. This is very important. How you are going to come to a conclusion depends on your discussion. And because when you will stop with the research question itself, sometimes only we have an introduction and a conclusion. No, even for a literary theory, even for a novel, anything, we need to have an introduction, research question, we need to have a discussion, and then the conclusion. Then later comes, what comes is keywords. Keywords are very important. That talks about the particular paper and the author as well. What kind of, certain journals, they talk about the keywords explaining yourself also. We need to give in what area you're specialized in. And then comes the keywords of your research paper. So this is the first part of the research paper. Then next comes the full paper. There you need to have an introduction. So in that introduction, what are the things that we need to have? We need to have, you have to give, talk about a quantitative study, or if it is a qualitative study, what kind of thing you are giving it. And mostly, please do write it in, sometimes when you talk about quantitative, it is follow the proper tense, whatever, present tense or past tense, which you follow. It has to have full throughout. And also you have to talk about the research problem. And review of literature, minimum 10 research review of literature. Recent review of literature is needed. They do not want a literature or review of literature which has been done 10 years back or 10-year back book. I'm not telling that is not important. You can take it as a follow-up. But if you're writing a paper on 2022, you need to have a review of literature in this particular year. Somebody would have written a paper on Taylor and Francis or Springer, very much recent research they want. Take references from them, take a research gap from them, and then put that review of literature there in your paper. This is very, very important. Review of literature is very important because your themes and where you are concentrating and what kind of research your paper is going to be talks about your review of literature. So there you have to talk about where have you filled your review of research gap. How have you filled your research gap? This is very important. Please to follow. Nowadays, I can feel the tension that every research column goes through, where we have to have 5 papers published or 3 papers published or 10 papers published, whatever. But if you want to have a paper published in a good journal, we need to have definitely a research gap. For example, when we talk about science people, it's very easy for them, they'll take a follow-up, 10 people, if they are having some physiotherapy problem, neck, they would be taking 50 to 55. The same research gap, they were talking about another laser therapy, or next they would be talking about now recently heart therapy or wax therapy. So all that they come, one after the other. To bridge that research, they would be taking a new technology. It's very easy for them, I understand. But for literature also, we have to find somewhere where we can fill this research gap, from where we have taken. Most of the time, we talk about, I see when we talk about feminism on Arundhati Roy or feminism in Chaitan Park, this is all what we talk about. But where do we have this feminism? Feminism is leading where? So people would have written, no, apart from that, when we talk about English in the journal, English as English for specific purposes, the particular journalists, I would say, I would appreciate the writers very well. Such a lot of research is there. You can read a paper from there. Take top 5 research journals, European Journal of European Studies, all that particular lot of journals are there. You take example papers from there and read, where they would be vividly, they'll be giving 2 research questions, a literature review, and then you would be having a discussion. So we have to have a theoretical framework. How to have, we have a theory, have an outline, all that. Then we can build our paper. So in our introduction, we need to have a research gap. Then we need to have a research question. Then what kind of framework, what kind of research technique, or what kind of research design we are going to have. So if practical motive. We can do qualitative and quantitative by interview, all that. If you don't have an interview, you wanted to do on a bookish way, please take the review of literature. That is what is going to help us in writing a literature paper. So next one. So previous slide. Previous. Yeah, methodology. So in this, this is very important. What kind of methodology? I told you, quantitative or qualitative. So data analysis or data collection, or if we are doing sampling. So this is for when you're doing an ELT or when you're having a questionnaire with your students regarding a literary theory. If not, if we are not doing, do a data analysis through research papers. So that is what is very important. We are doing a data analysis where we are taking a lot of literary theory from this particular person, this particular paper, that you can compile it up and you can do. So this is what we talk about data analysis. So everywhere it is possible. We when we talk about a gender issue, questionnaire is possible. If you are not very much good with the questionnaire, if you don't have time for that, please quote more than 20 to 25 research papers. So next slide, sir. So what were the findings from the data? So you, so first of all, please don't write a paper as such, type it or write it. When you have an introduction, when you have a questionnaire, when you have a research question, then put points and then what have you found? And then you have to say, after that findings, how you are presenting it in your paper. You have to arrange that particular arguments in a logical and sequential order. That should not change. So when the reviewer is reading your paper, he has to be very sure, he has to enjoy, that connectivity has to be there. If not, the logical sequence, if it is missing, our paper will be rejected. Then results should be presented in the past tense. If it is qualitative, it can be in present tense. So next slide. So what is the meaning of the result? That is very important. That is said to be discussion. When you have to have a questions, you have to have your discussion. Discussion is very important. Please, the discussion has to be reflected in 3 areas. It should be in the abstract, then it should be in the main paper, and it should be also in the conclusion. What kind of discussions you have brought, how this discussion has been brought up. So this is very important, and you should not have any bias. You might be a feminist, or you might like ego criticism, or you might like gender, you might be against LGBT or whatever, but you should not show your bias to it. You should have evidences from either research papers or through your findings. This is what is very important. So we have to have this overall key findings in your research paper. Please, discussion is very important. Discussions should be your paper should be fully filled with discussions. How this has been brought up. We do not want a review. Okay, we do not. Mostly there are journals which invites review. If it is a review paper, it is different. When we talk about a fully research paper, we do not want a review. Okay, be very sure whether this is a research article, whether this is a review article, or whether this is an essay. Please be very sure on what you're going to write. So I'm just talking about research paper. Okay, your research article. In that case, we do not want a review. So a review of a book or a review of a film, that is not needed for a research article. So when you select a journal, either do, whether you select whether it is a research paper or a review. You have both the options in most of the journals. So next slide. So this is what the very important is. You can end your study by summarizing the topic. You have to summarize the findings. You have to give a narrative summary, and also then what we have done and what you are telling the reader, and you can have to have some recommendations. I would say if the recommendations are there, it's very good. And then future research should be also there. Not only for thesis, future research also is needed for a good research paper. You need to have a future research, because research is something which is giving another person a lead up research. When somebody is referring your paper, they may take the lead of your research into their paper to fill the research gap. So in that case, if it is future research, if you give a hint, if you give recommendations, your paper is going to be selected for review, and your paper will be selected to get published.
Hello,
If your
ma'am.
paper
There is
have
no
all these
voice.
things, sorry. So if your paper is having all these things, most of the journals would be asking for open access. Okay, I know many people, when they have given a very good paper, their open access charges have been waived off, like £2,000, €3,000. All that has been waived off for many people. So in that case, if our research is of well to that mark, our papers are going to be getting accepted in Q1 or Q2 journals, and even our open access charges are going to be waived off. So this is what I would like to talk about today. And if any questions if you have, you can ask me.
Participants, if you have any questions, clarifications, you can raise.
Yes, Haruna Ibrahim.
All right. Good evening in India, Malaysia, and good afternoon from Ghana. I'm Harun Ibrahim, a medical practitioner.
Yeah.
Thank you, doctor, for such an excellent presentation. I I am an aspiring to read masters in Europe very soon, and so I needed um, um, this thesis writing and publication workshop badly, and I'm very fortunate and happy to join this workshop. And thanks to Dr. Frank for that. My question is, you made mention of transcription softwares. As we are aspiring to go into full-time research in the future, and as a student, you made mention that there are online software that we can have access to. Can you humbly show us where we can get it so that those
Yeah, I will give you. Actually, I don't have that now. I have one trans. I'm not able to hear. Are you able to hear me now? It is like something is coming up. When you go to Google Cloud itself, your transcribing is there. Audio transcribe online is there. You can do it online in Google Cloud, and there are apps also. When you talk about apps, when you give it a free apps are there, so where you can upload your audios and you will be getting it transcribed. Will you be getting it in PDF, or you'll be getting it in Word, HTML?
hello log hello
Yeah,
Hello.
yeah, speak. Yes, ask.
See, something I'm getting that vibration sound I'm getting.
yeah, so as you said, we will patiently wait so that you can share the link with us, and then some of the software that we can use.
I will
We
share it. I will give it to Rajesh sir, and he will put it in the group.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome. Any more questions?
Dear participants, if you have any questions and clarifications or compliments, kindly speak.
Priyanka, Priyanka,
Hello, good evening, ma'am.
very,
good evening.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much for such a well-structured presentation. Ma'am, can I request you to kindly share the PPT of this presentation with us because it's full of ideas and we would like to look at it later on.
Yeah, I will give it to Rajesh sir. Don't worry.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah,
Can you
thank you.
tell us something more about where to publish these papers? You told about the steps that we have to follow while writing
See,
a research paper. but where
Yeah.
to publish? That is the key question
See,
because we
first
have
I would say,
freedom.
I would say you have to have a time frame first of all. How much of time you have? Okay. I, as a person, my job is doing research publication. What I do is I download Scopus. I every day sit and I would read 10 Scopus journals.
Again.
Sorry. I would be taking 100 Scopus journals and I would find the scope of the journal, and then I would sit, read how much of time they take to publish a paper, what are the open access charges. So, what I would say is there are certain websites, Journal Finder, Elsevier Journal Finder, Taylor and Francis Journal Finder, all that. So, you can have an abstract or you take a title, you paste it, and you find a journal first, and then you decide which journal you want to publish in, which is comfortable for your research scope. Take that particular journal and sit with that journal. Take 10 to 15 research papers. It is not freely downloadable. Please, you can go to universities, or some research people might be there, would be having access to Inflignet. So to download that from their particular journal, download papers, read it first, and then you will have an idea, and then you publish. Please don't take a paper and find a journal. Find a journal and then write a paper. Okay, so that is what my request would be. Only then our papers, at least enough, you can take a scope of that particular journal which matches any other 3 or 4 journals. For example, cultural studies. There are a lot of cultural studies. Take 4 or 5 journals. Apply one after the other. So this is what some people, we help in cases like we review, we do certain things, certain people do. But be very sure, don't go if you have time, if you can invest the time, nice good journals are available. You have to have time for that. No short duration, minimum of 4 months you would be taking for a paper to get published. If it is SSCI or Arts and Humanities Citation Index, it will take a year and more.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome.
Very good evening, madam.
Good evening, sir.
I am Ravi Kumar, PhD Research Scholar Sociology calling from Pondicherry, India.
Yes, sir.
Your lecture is very interesting, very nice, very useful for my PhD studies.
Thank you, sir.
And the other thing is, madam, where can you use mixed method of research? Mixed method of research. Where can we use?
Mixed qualitative and quantitative research. When you're talking about mixed, we can talk about COVID. Nowadays, many of Taylor and Francis journal now wanted health-related sociology. You have a lot of journals, sir, I would say, because sociology people, I meet a lot of people where we do interdisciplinary as well with sociology. And
Yes,
you can talk about the COVID effect on women, which we were doing, a friend of mine were doing. We were talking about the mixed research only. We were talking about the psychological issues, and also we were talking about how many working women were affected and what are the effects of that age range after, I would say, post-COVID effect.
Okay, madam.
That they were
Okay.
doing
Fine,
on.
Fine. Very good. Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other question, clarification? Yes, Haruna Ibrahim, Dr. Priyanka. Yeah, please speak.
All right. So the next question to Doctor is, from her presentation, I could fathom that between qualitative and quantitative research, now there is more paradigm shift to qualitative research, looking at companies that want to even sponsor research because the qualitative research generates more ideas, thoughts, experiences, but the quantitative research gives you more of a limitation, working with numbers. And now, because of how the world is going, a lot of companies want to know how people are generating their ideas, experiences. For example, the COVID-19 vaccine, why some people are not vaccinating. It's one of the things that I'm doing currently in Ghana now with Ghana Red Cross Society. you tend to know why people are not taking it, and it's so many different reasons, and it is interesting for you to listen to why people are not taking it. And these are some of the reasons why some companies like that, the vaccine producing companies, we would like to know why we are producing the vaccines and why some people are refusing to take it, which is causing or resulting in increased vaccine hesitancy across the world. It is not by individual, but it can be influenced by social media and all walks of life, different cultural backgrounds, different educational backgrounds. All of these things play. So, my doctor, as an experienced master student, what do you think that if we have very good research topics that we want to do in the future, can you suggest to us some of the companies that are ready to fund those research for us? We are in Africa. I'll be doing my masters in Europe soon. I would like to do research very deeply, or I would like to do international research. From your experience, what are some of the ways that you can show us so that we can get research funding? Because some of us have very good topics that we want to share to the world. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very nice question. I would say that we were doing for Taylor and Francis a book on COVID. We were concentrating on COVID and rural students in Tamil Nadu. Okay, so but my college is in rural area where COVID and vaccination were most of the rural female students, I would say, which we were concentrating on female students, where most of that particular time students were not going for studies and they were married off very early. And in Africa or in India or in Tamil Nadu, where we are talking about women empowerment, we are talking about women education, all that we are talking about, where we need to concentrate on these particular ethnographic groups, where we can talk about the upliftment, where you can take a questionnaire or quantitative or qualitative study as well, where you can take and you can write up a research, build up a research, and you can send it to certain funding organizations. For us, when we talk about India, Tamil Nadu government itself is giving a lot of funding for this particular COVID affected students, female students. People are getting funding, where how much of assistance can be given, what kind of assistance can be given. So the awareness programs, to spread awareness programs itself is a big funding program which the world is giving in today's world. So that particular, what kind of awareness it has to be given. So this is what we were concentrating on, a project, awareness that can be given to female students, rural female students, I would say. There are tribal community where certain COVID didn't affect, and where the certain tribal communities where COVID were affected, where females were affected. So we can take a one-to-one interview where we can take a lot of ideologies, and then we can put it in a paper and we can ask for funding. The Reserve Department of India is obviously giving a lot of funding. I do not know much about Africa, but I'm just talking about India, where rural people, students, this is what they're concentrating on, because they are the people who are to be for the future. So even if you're writing a book for Taylor and Francis, COVID related books, they wanted immediately. They wanted, but nobody is giving quantitative research. That's what I offered a book. I was offered a book to publish, but I'm not getting particular papers. So this is what is very much lagging. So COVID related health issues with women or education issues with women, this is very much a hot topic nowadays. Talking about the younger generation. So that would be the greatest research in future, which would be very much appreciated. Vidya, ma'am?
Yes, some have raised their hands. Yeah, kindly unmute your audio
Vidya,
and
ma'am?
then ask question. Anybody else? I see some hands raised.
I think Priyanka spoke to me.
Okay.
Only Vidya, ma'am.
Okay.
Any more questions?
I think your sessions are very clear.
Kausalya.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
can we get your email ID?
Yeah, my name, it will be there in the PPT. ChristyPaulina@gmail.com.
So you can collect from the organizers.
Yeah.
If there are no questions, shall we wind up?
Kausalya.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, somebody is there. Yes, coming and going. Yes. Kausalya Mohan.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
I'm from Tamil Nadu. My name is Kausalya. I asked
Yes,
one
ma'am.
question. You told while your presentation, papers fully filled with discussion, not reviews. You told. My question is, how to develop our discussion? Is there any major tools or keys? How to we move our discussion? Not a creative writing. How to we move our discussion?
By reading papers, ma'am, I would say.
Okay.
When certain journals, would have a unique way of discussion. Vast reading is what helps. I would not, workshops. As Lavender Trust is, this is a second conference which I'm speaking. They have been only doing on research publication, but I would say that most of what we are telling is we have to have reading. Okay, when you talk about a particular, I mean telling research paper, please download from good websites. Okay, I am telling English for specific purposes. Please download one or there are sample papers. You can take it. Okay, most of us are writing only for 2,500 to 3,000 words. I would say minimum 4,000 to 6,000 words. Certain journals are expecting. So in that case, we need to have. You must imagine for 10 pages how much of discussion pages should be there. At least 6 to 7. So in that case, please don't, we should not have a review. Please have a discussion. There are a lot of things that how you are discussing a particular matter, either with evidences or you have to talk about certain, evidences or true or from citing from different papers. So this is what is very much necessary. So if we talk about that, reading helps. Without reading, without knowing how a discussion is done, it's not possible for us to write a good research paper. So please read a paper. Take 4 or 5 research papers, read it. That goes well along with your topic. Okay, then you can have a very good discussion. Don't go for Q2, Q1 journals at first. Go for a Q4 journal first. There are some paid journals are there where they give you an opportunity, like 1 or 2 opportunities for you to review a papers. It's a good methodology for English, MLA, APA. English department, we are only doing MLA, but please concentrate on APA as well. Most of the journals are asking APA for English literature. Probably we have to be very much well versed with methodologies. This is what they see. Typographical errors should, and you have to have a grammar check. Otherwise, we have to give for a grammar check that has been set by the journal. That's waste of money. So this is what is essential.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, this is a good compliment. Yes. Today we need to find a research gap first. If you want to find a research gap, you need to read. Then
Yes,
you
sir.
have to raise questions. You need to have research questions. That's how
We are not
discussion
having
comes.
research gaps, sir.
Yeah, we don't actually search for research gaps and then research questions, then try to answer, then we become. So our research is actually, having a new knowledge based on the existing knowledge, finding of the new knowledge. But for most of us are actually, elaborating what is already there. And that's what becomes
Yes.
research. That's why
Yes, sir.
most of the Indians are in third world countries. They don't recognize much of the research.
No, I'll be telling you, sir. I'm a PhD scholar. When I was in UK, I was applying for a research, assistant. Means for a research PhD research scholar, I am applying for a research assistant where my degree was, I didn't have a good publication then. I was not even shortlisted. I would not say be selected. Even for that shortlisting of that interview panel, I was not there. So that was a pathetic thing that we are following our degrees or your research papers are not accepted. But I do say many people are doing good research, but it has to be, it has to come up more. Only then
Yes.
I later realized.
The process is important than the product.
Yes, sir. That is what is very important.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else? Someone else had also raised.
Hello.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah, good evening, madam.
Good evening, sir.
I am myself Krishna Kishore. I'm calling from Andhra Pradesh, Vijayawada. So regarding citations, so what is citation and how to improve our citation? So what are the methods or what are the measures have to consider in order to improve citations? Sir?
Improve citations.
Yeah.
You can, I would say, if you go to university of InflibNet or wherever when you want to talk about a particular topic, you type it, you're going to get a lot of papers. So if you find if you are very much if you find to refer to all the papers that you are going to read, you can take well-read papers. You'll be getting how much time this particular paper has been downloaded, all that. So you can take that papers which has been published in 2021 or 22. Take that, what references they have written. Please don't copy that. Take it and read that particular papers which they have quoted. Okay, and at least 20 research papers or 20 to 25 research papers you have to refer. What we people do is we refer 2 to 3 research papers, we copy it, and their references we type it. Okay, so particularly some journals, when they ask us to paste the abstract and paste the references. When our references, they will easily find through plagiarism, it has been taken from somewhere. Okay, and when that happens, our papers are not going to be reviewed. So we need to type the references. First of all, don't copy the references from some paper. You can refer it to read a paper, but not to copy it in a paper. So this is how we can have a citation. Minimum 25 citations should be there, and 10 recent citations should be there. And old citations can be there, but not all the citations should be old. We need to have 10 citations where research has been taken. Only then we can talk about discussion at our research gap.
Okay. Suppose if we are having a lot of references, is it possible to increase our citation?
Sorry, sir, I didn't get you.
Suppose,
there are a lot of
if we are having a lot of references through different kind of papers, research papers, I told 20, 22, 25 papers if you read. Okay, if you put those all references in our research paper, it have any impact on citation?
Yeah, you 25 references, if you are quoting at the back, that particular references has to be inside your paper as well. Okay. Without those references inside your paper, your citations will not be taken into account, sir. Okay. So mostly in APS style, it has to be given inside, and you have to follow the methodology, and that will be at the when it is reflected back, all the references should be reflected inside your paper as well. Only then it will be taken into account.
Okay.
Sorry, sir?
Okay, inside the research paper also it should be reflected.
You should have, yes, only not at the back.
Okay.
It should be inside also.
Thank you.
Yes, I think no questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So if there are questions, so let's wind up the session. And thank you, Dr. Christy Paulina, ma'am, for your excellent presentations and the clarifications that you have made. Many of the research scholars, they have actually doubts in, how to write a research or how to publish a research. and explorations, and people, when they don't do their explorations, it becomes very difficult. As you said, they refer only 2-3 research articles and then start writing. It's not possible, and it's not written on a single day. It needs time. That's why publication takes at least minimum of 7 to 8 months or a year. And
Yes.
your presentations with very systematic presentations will surely give a way for those research scholars and also the professors and the scholars and the eminent persons who are there from India and Malaysia and almost all other countries from South Africa. I think it will pave way for further research and good research, genuine research. Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am.